Welcome to Star TV News, the headlines this hour with me, Mimini Fadera. President Adama Barrow assures King and Jara of electricity supply next year. Central Bank says Gambia's economic future looks very good. GFF congratulates Musa Barrow on GAF Youth Player Award nominee. Now on the international scene. Guinea temporarily frees jail opposition leaders. Sudan approves new law dismantling Omar al-Bashir's regime. At least 19 killed in new rebel attack near Benin, DR Congo. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Excellency President Adama Barrow has guaranteed the people of Jara and Kieng that come next year, they will have electricity. He made these promises on Thursday while addressing the people of Jara. President Barrow made two brief site visits in LRR from Mansakonko, where he usually spends the night. He headed to the just completed Trans-Gambia Bridge between Bambatenda and Yilitenda. Dada Cham reports.
President took a visit to the Gambia River Basin Development Organization project site in Jara Soma. He was accompanied by his workers minister and other senior government officials to see first-hand information on the work progress. Work in Soma, substantiation is an advanced progress with base camp and office completed, platform completed and pillars via completion. The OMVG project share between 4 West African countries, the Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau and Senegal, was launched in February 2017. The OMVG launched an ambition energy project in Kalita, Guinea, for the constructions of the Sabagalo hydroelectrical dam and an interconnection line for power transmission linking all 4 member countries. The project is expected to be completed in 2020. While addressing the people of Kieng, President Barrow said the electricity problem in the area will soon be history. This morning, I visited the OMVG project site and I saw the ongoing work there. The contractors have informed me that they are on track to deliver electricity come December 2020. So for Kieng and Jara, this is not a matter of politics or propaganda as seeing is believing, but I can assure you that before my next visit here, you will be supplied with electricity by promise. He continued, "We know you have been sidelined for many years, but my government will address your challenges soon enough." Alaji Bakari Damfa, the chief of Jara Central, speaking in Jalaberi, reminded the people calling for president to step down after 3 years that the constitution empowered the Gambian leader to be in power for 5 years. Chief Damfa reminded his people that Jara Central have never opposed a sitting government. He says Jara Central voted against the coalition in 2016 presidential election because they are not known for being opposition. However, the chief took time to highlight the challenges his communities are facing, such as lack of good roads. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Cham.
Monetary Policy Committee of Central Bank of the Gambia today projected 5 years vigorous growth regarding the country's medium-term economic outlook, but urged for continued reform and encouragement of human development. More on this report with Bintakoli.
A committee comprising all commercial banks in the country, but headed by Central Bank of the Gambia, releases its assessment report on every quarter of the year. And this marked another quarterly meeting for 2019. Speaking today at a news conference in Banjul, Governor of Central Bank of the Gambia, Bakari Jammeh, said, "What is critical to know is that for the next 5 years, the minimum term outlook for the economy will remain very robust and very good. The medium term outlook for the Gambia is good. The growth projections are extremely good. What we needed to maintain is to stay focused and continue doing the reforms in order to ensure that growth is inclusive. And we also needed to work on the human capital development." He added, "This economy is going to continue to grow robustly. That is very important at the moment. We are doing an assessment on 2019, but I am sure it is going to grow robustly in 2019 and in 2020 also. And in 2020 also, we expected the economy to grow very robustly." He said the main challenge of the economy is in agriculture and tourism, but Mr. Jammeh was quick to add that this is not causing serious alarm anymore. In 2019, agriculture was sucked, and the worst case scenario we are looking at that no tourists will come through the Thomas Cook case. Still, the economy grew around 4% even with that pessimistic scenario, and we know that the scenario is not the right scenario, he added. Binta Koli, Star TV News.
The Gambia Football Federation has congratulated Atalanta forward and Gambia international Musa Barrow for his deserved nomination by the Confederation of African Football for the award of GAF Youth Player of the Year. Binta Koli reports.
Barrow, 21, is among 16 young players being shortlisted by the continental body for the prestigious award scheduled to take place in January 2020. The GFF president Lamin Kababajo said the news of Barrow's nomination as a contender for the Youth Player Award is received with great pleasure by the football leadership. We are so delighted with his shortlisting and further congratulate him for the nomination, while we do hope and pray that he wins the award. He said the star player is a fan favorite who dedicates so much for the national team, and I have no doubt that he will bring smiles on our faces for the final shortlist to the awards. Barrow joined Atlanta in 2016 from Hawks FC, where he played domestic league. And in his first appearance with the Serie A youth side, he scored 2 goals from midfield, where he has been previously positioned. He later joined the first team squad in 2018 after scoring 19 goals in 15 games for the reserve side. Barrow made his professional debut with Atlanta in a 1-0 loss to Juventus in Coppa Italia in 2018 before his Serie A debut 1-1 tied with Crotone on 10 February 2018. He featured for Atlanta again on the 13 February 2018, where Atlanta drew goalless with Inter Milan. Barrow in June 2018 scored the only goal for Gambia under 23 in a 1-0 friendly win over Morocco in Banjul. He made his debut for the senior national team Scorpion in a 1-1 draw at home in the 2018 AFCON qualifiers with Algeria. The Atlanta forward is the first Gambian player to be nominated by CAF for the award of Youth Player of the Year. Barrow is an integral member of Gambia national team, returned to his Serie A side 2 weeks ago following Gambia's 2-2 draw to DR Congo in Banjul, match day 2 of AFCON qualifiers, where he again helped the Scorpion to reach to the summit of Group D on 4 points. Barrow played in both of the Scorpions' engagement, where the Gambia first opened her accounts away to Angola in a 3-1 win over the Palancas Negras before drawing 2-2 at home to the Leopards of DR Congo. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Binta Koli.
And now on the international scene. A Guinean court has agreed to temporarily release a group of opposition leaders from jail as they wait for the start of their appeal. They were arrested for staging protests against President Alpha Condé, whom they believe is planning on running for a third term. Hundreds of thousands of protesters have taken to the streets since mid-October over suspicions that Condé is planning to change the constitution to extend his rule. Al Jazeera's Ketia Lopez-Hodoyan reports.
Guinea's opposition leaders arrived at the Conakry Court of Appeal hoping they would be allowed to go back home. They were in jail for 6 weeks. On Thursday, a judge decided to free them. 10 members of the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution have been temporarily released while they wait for the start of their appeal next week.
It's a feeling of happiness and joy. The law has won, and so has liberty. The innocent have been freed. I'm speechless.
The opposition leaders were arrested last month inside the home of a former politician who was coordinating anti-government protests. But instead of deterring the movement, their detention prompted hundreds of thousands of demonstrators to take to the streets. Critics fear President Alpha Condé is planning on changing Guinea's constitution so he can run for a third term in 2020. However, this latest court verdict is being seen as a victory for the opposition.
I'm so happy, not only because they're free, but because this means justice has begun to repair the past. I hope the appeals court will free them completely because they were detained illegally.
Street protests have been systematically banned in Guinea for over a year. The government insists they are a threat to public security, but opponents say it's a tool to silence criticism. Opposition leaders have been accused of staging unauthorized protests and of paralyzing the economy of the West African nation. Now, while they prepare for a final decision from the appeals court, tensions remain high. Katia Lopez-Hodoyan, Al Jazeera.
Sudan's transitional government has approved a law to dismantle the regime of former President Omar al-Bashir. The law was passed during a joint meeting of Sudan's Sovereign Council and Cabinet to dissolve al-Bashir's National Congress Party. Al-Bashir was removed from office in April after months of anti-government protests. The measures include the annulment of a controversial act which severely curtailed women's movements. Al Jazeera's Heba Morgan reports from Khartoum.
It was once the dominant party in Sudan, ruling the country for more than 25 years. Now, more than 6 months after its head leader was ousted, Sudan's transitional government has announced that the former ruling party will be dismantled.
The law dismantles the National Congress Party and seizes its assets, money and properties and gives it to the government's Minister of Finance. A committee will be formed to ensure that any organisation, association, institution, union, company, partnership that has links to the former ruling party will be dismantled.
The National Congress Party came to power in 1992. A few years after its head, Omar al-Bashir overthrew a democratically elected government in 1989. The coup was carried out under the name of the National Islamic Front. Bashir went on to create the National Congress Party that ruled until he was ousted from power in April this year, following months of anti-government protests. The December protests gained momentum after the burning of the National Congress Party's headquarters in Atbara. Despite it being the only party many Sudanese knew, the demand for it to be dismantled had become one of the protest movement's main aims.
Dismantling a party doesn't mean its end. It has to be remembered that establishing a new country would have to include establishing coexistence with those from the dismantled party, and in a way where politics is practiced wisely.
Amira Osman regards herself as a victim of one of the party's signature laws that came to define it, the controversial Public Order Act. It severely curtailed women's rights, and which was condemned by human rights groups. Sudan's new leaders say it will be scrapped.
When I was arrested for refusing, the officers called me names, saying I'm not a real Sudanese because I didn't follow the rules of the government. They said they expected me to be from the south, a Christian.
During its time in power, the National Congress Party left scars that many continue to feel. From earning Sudan 20 years of U.S. trade and economic sanctions following accusations of supporting terrorism abroad, to dividing a nation that was once Africa's largest country. It now remains to be seen how straightforward eradicating it from Sudanese political life will be. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
At least 19 people have been killed during another rebel attack in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Fighters from a group called the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, are suspected of being behind the attack on a village near the city of Oicha. The ADF is accused of being behind a string of recent massacres around Benin, which sparked the violent protests against the UN mission and the Congolese army. The UN says one of its peacekeepers killed one of the 6 protesters who died in recent days. Similar protests are also taking place in Goma, North Kivu's provincial capital. Al Jazeera's Catherine Soy reports from the provincial capital, Goma.
Another tense day in Beni. They're burying Mohindo Obadi, a protester shot dead by a policeman on Saturday. The policeman was later killed by an angry mob. They marched through the city with his body in a casket, going to the area where he was shot in the head. Obadi is one of 6 people who have been killed since the protest started over the weekend. People here are angry, and their anger is directed to the UN peacekeeping mission called MONUSCO. They blame the peacekeepers for failing to protect them from attacks from an armed group in the area called Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF. The UN mission in Beni has also been accused of using excessive force on protesters.
One of our peacekeepers shot dead a protester who was throwing a Molotov cocktail at the peacekeepers. So we are still in the process of verifying all the facts and fact-checking the reports we have received.
In the midst of all this, another tragedy happened. An early morning attack by ADF on a village about 30 kilometers from Beni. More than a dozen people hacked to death with machetes, some of them decapitated. The anger on the streets of Beni is also being felt many kilometers south in North Kivu's provincial capital, Goma. Protesters here have expressed their frustration Police have been deployed to keep them from getting to important MONUSCO bases.
This is just a small group of people who have managed to regroup after police earlier this morning fired tear gas at protesters and also fired live bullets in the air to disperse them. They say they just want peace. This is a peaceful march in support of what is going on in Beni. They say these killings must stop. They also say the United Nations mission called MONUSCO must leave this country.
Their message was clear. They told us no matter what force is used to remove them from the streets, they'll keep coming back until the demands of the people of Beni are met.
We are tired. I come from Beni. Our people are being slaughtered. The UN and our soldiers are there and doing nothing. Why then are all these forces there if not to protect our people?
They finished their protest at a police station where they paid their last tribute to Muhindo Obado. And back in Beni, he was buried by family, friends, and hundreds of other protesters determined to keep the pressure on until the violence stops. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Goma.
People in West Guinea are looking for relatives still missing after heavy rain caused flooding and landslide over the weekend. At least 52 people have been confirmed dead. Local officials say more than 80,000 people have been displaced. Al Jazeera's Mohamed Adoy reports from Tamkal village in West Pokot County.
The people of Tamkal village in Kenya's West Pokot County are on a macabre mission. Days after floods and landslides swept away their homes, they are searching for the bodies of their missing relatives. William Domikira is looking for the body of his 5-year-old daughter.
I found the body of my son who also died not far from here, so I've asked my neighbours to help with the search for my daughter. Her body is under this rubble.
The floods and landslide in Tamkal followed days of torrential rain. Entire families were wiped out when a vast surge of water, rocks and mud swept across the village. The land that once held their homes is now covered by mud and rocks. Boniface Bogisio lost his entire family.
It's hard to bear the loss of my sister who had just finished school that day, as well as my mother and 2 brothers. I'm all alone in the world.
In all, 21 people died in Tamkal. 11 bodies have been recovered. The rest are still missing. William Capel is yet to find the bodies of 7 of his 9 children who died.
My appeal to the government is to help me raise and educate my only remaining son. Life will never be the same for us. We also need machinery to move these rocks to check if there might be any bodies underneath.
But government rescue workers are yet to reach this far-flung village. They've been hampered by the torrential rain and floods, which have also swept away bridges and roads in West Pokot. The tragedy that took place here is part of a grim picture affecting many parts of West Pokot County. And with continued rainfall, there is a possibility of a repeat. Government officials have been appealing to people to move to safer grounds. But the people of this village say they can't do that until they find the bodies of their loved ones. Locals say it was the worst disaster they've ever witnessed, and they dread any further loss of life.
We need the government to carry out some conservation work. Deforestation and over-farming has made the soil prone to sliding.
Most survivors in Tamkal have sought shelter in the local church. Others have chosen to live in the open, not sure when, if ever, their lives can return to any sense of normality. Mohamed Adu, Al Jazeera, Tamkal in northwestern Kenya.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. President Barrow assures King and Jara of electricity supply next year. King Kabada calls for peace over 3 and 5 years dilemma. Central Bank says Gambia's economic future looks very good. Banjul City Council reviews Local Government Act. GFF congratulates Musa Barrow on GAV Youth Player Award nominee. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you.